Welcome to Thriving Tribesmen. My name is Kuri, your host, and I'm excited to be making this episode. Today I got a guest, and he's one of the OGs from Reignited Men, and he's one of the guys that is not managed to get a lot of sex within his relationship after doing Reignited Men because they went through a separation. So he's going to go through his story and what caused ended up getting him to separate. So it's going to be an interesting story, and hopefully it's going to help some of you guys within a sexless relationship where your partner has committed some infidelity and what that looks like in terms of leaving. So hopefully I'm just going to connect with him right now and invite him on, and welcome to the stage. So I've already made the intro. Hopefully you can hear me over there. I'm not going to use the name.
Hey, Kuri. I can hear you just fine. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I've been a big fan for a long time.
Thank you very much. And when we met, it was just in the sort of the beginnings of Reignited Men. And I'm forever grateful for you because you're one of the guys that were the 10 people that came for the free trial. And since our relationship has converted from, client, coach, client to friends, I consider you to be a very, very good friend, and been eternally grateful for the relationship that we have, where we continuously have conversations over a period of time. So you've been massive help for me in terms of really figuring out where we're going to go with Reignited Men. So, and I'm really grateful for having you onto the show so you can tell some of your story, because your story is an amazing one, where amazing is in the sense that when we had the discovery and of what happened in your relationship, and then now where you are right now, where you are really empowered and doing really amazing things for your children and where the next chapter of your life. So just tell me more about yourself. Tell us more about yourself in your situation.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start off by just framing the conversation with a little bit more about me. So I'm in my mid-40s. I've been married for nearly 10 years. November 1st, which is coming up, will be my 10-year anniversary, which I do not want to happen married at this point. But I've been married for 10 years, and I work in the insurance industry. I run a small software company, so I am highly successful and very proud of my achievements, and a very motivated and driven individual. I get up at 4:30 every day. I go to the gym 4 to 5 days a week. I put in a full day of work. I love managing a team and people, and things have just been not good at home for a long time, much longer than I actually ever thought. Now that I'm kind of coming out of the fog and realizing what was happening at home, and now realizing that what was happening at home is not normal. It's actually kind of a bit of a relief. I feel lighter. I feel more free now, and I feel like there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel. But to go back in time a little bit and tell you my story, I found Kuri's podcast because that's exactly what was happening in my marriage. It was, we were in a sexless marriage. There was no passion, there was no compassion, there was no empathy, there was no connection. And we'd sit down on the couch every single night, and we'd look at each other, and she'd be on her phone, and I'd try and have a conversation, and it would get shut down. Anytime I'd try and share my feelings or be vulnerable, it was shut down. And I started looking around for help, and I found Kuri's podcast. And I'll be honest with you, I found Kuri's podcast before I ever found out that there was infidelity happening in my marriage. I'll get to that in a minute. But I found Kuri's podcast to be just so interesting and so helpful, because it was not what I was hearing in marriage therapy. It was not what I was hearing in personal therapy, and it just resonated with me. So we started talking, and like Kuri said, we're great friends now, and I'm so thankful I can contribute to this in some way. And I'm also thankful to have the opportunity to tell my story. So thank you for that, Kuri.
No, it's been absolute a crazy situation, because when we met, you were just talking about how you can change the sexless relationship to sexual success, and you told me about therapy, and you told me about some of the things that you're doing, and I think that's the time when I started telling you more about how I feel about therapy and that I was against it. And I know most people don't want to, because these guys are professionals. So in terms of How long were you in therapy with your wife?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a personal therapist for 3 years, and about 2 years, 2 years ago, so a year into my personal therapy, my therapist at the time said, "Listen, she's not going to change. She does not love you. You should go have an affair." And that blew my mind. I was like, I am not going to have an affair. I'm going to stay faithful and keep my end of the contract. But I was just blown away. I was like, my therapist sees this. Like my wife does not love me. She does not have empathy towards me. She does not care to be vulnerable with me, and she doesn't really care what my feelings are and needs are. And she was spot on. And I was afraid to approach that with my wife at the time. I was afraid to. It's all fear based. It really was all fear based, and that was me. That's my fault. I didn't feel like I could talk to my wife about these things at the time because I just was constantly rejected, just years of rejection. About 2 years into the marriage is when things started to change, and she started to really withhold love and affection, and it got worse over time. But overall, it was just a lack of connection, and we just did not connect. We couldn't connect, and no matter how hard I tried, and maybe it's just she's just not capable of that, and that's okay, But both of us should have probably, exited sooner in the relationship than let it get to this point. Um, so what happened was I noticed things started to change last year. We'd pass each other in the hallways, and she wouldn't look me in the eye. She started being more protective of her phone. If you go online, guys, and look at, just Google basically hints that your spouse is cheating, you'll find a list, lists of things to look for. And she was checking off every single one of those, the items in those lists. I just didn't want to believe that it was true. And the real red flag for me was she put something on my calendar for a Sunday night where she had to travel on a Sunday night to meet her track team for an alumni get together. And I look online and the actual event's on a Friday night, not Sunday night, so that was a red flag. And as we grew closer and closer to the date, I just became more and more suspicious. I mean, she wasn't looking me in the eye. She was becoming more distant. She wouldn't hold my hand. She didn't want to kiss me. It was just very cold, and she was making things just so uncomfortable in the house, for me to be there and be with her and the girls. And it was really difficult. So that day came, and I was, highly suspicious. I ended up finding an overnight bag that she had packed, which had a Valentine's Day card, basically a love note for another man in it. It had a shirt wrapped up for another man. It had brownies that she had baked with heart-shaped sprinkles. It had heart-shaped confetti in there, probably for the bed, and it had lingerie. And I discovered all this, and my sister came over. I was extremely upset. I was shaking. I was so upset. My sister came over to help me calm down, and we looked through the rest of the house for other evidence. We couldn't tell how long this has been going on, but obviously it's been going on for a while. If my ex had these feelings for this other man and decided to put those feelings into a love letter or a Valentine's Day card, so it had been going on for a while, and that confirmed my suspicions that I had last year when we started passing each other in the hallway and she wasn't looking me in the eye. So I sat on the evidence. I talked to my therapist about it. I sat on it for a week and confronted her a week later. And what's really, I think what hurts the most is that it's not what she did. I spent months basically waking up every single night thinking about her with another man. But that's not what bothers me the most. What bothers me the most is that she wasn't remorseful about what she did. She was more worried about if she was in trouble with her job, or if I would reach out to his family and basically let his family know that he was having an affair as well. She was more concerned about those two things. She kept saying, "Please tell me I have a job. Please don't tell his family. Please tell me I have a job. Please don't tell his family." There was nothing about, "I'm so sorry I've done this to you. I'm so sorry about how this makes you feel." There was nothing from her like that. And there still hasn't been. And that was in February. So we're in October now. I still haven't gotten an apology. I don't think I ever will. But at that point, we basically had it out, and I said, this marriage is over. And, probably a couple months later, I'd been working with a lawyer and got her a separation agreement. And we've been going back and forth on the separation agreement. But, I got to tell you, it took a lot of courage to basically call it over, say the marriage was over. It took a lot of courage to, put together a separation agreement and start working through the process, and just resigning to the idea that the marriage at that point was over. I just don't know how I could ever stay with someone that wasn't faithful to me. That I'm done trying to prove myself to this person. I've been trying for years, and it's no longer on me to help this person see me for who I am. She chose someone else. So that's on her. And she has yet to take accountability or responsibility for what she's done. And that's also on her.
So just 1 second, actually, David. I know you're kind of glossing over the bit where I think is probably one of the best parts about this story, is that I've been part of this journey for some time. So even the time when you got to the separation agreement, and the time when you decided that you're going to call it quits, or at least call for the breakup, a lot of people that I speak to, they tend to try and work things through. And there's a part of you that you were given the invitation to work things through. And I said, you don't want to get into this sort of weird situation. You have to break off. And I think there was a bit of anxiety of what does life look like separated, which most people face, which was valid reason for you to feel that. But again, like you said, it took a lot of courage to say, okay, I am going to break away from this. More importantly, I'm going to be happy alone and be a good parent by myself, rather than being in this toxic house, or at least in this situation where you would have been fighting. So that took a lot of courage. And plus the separation agreement, you've handled it amazingly, in terms of that you've been completely very generous to somebody who's hurt you and hurt your family, but you've been courteous and generous, not because you're trying to do something for her, but you're really trying to preserve the livelihood, or your livelihood of your children. So you didn't want them to change. You had a certain core of values on the separation, which was you're not going to affect the children and how the way they live, the school district they're in, and you've allowed that be the thing that governs your separation agreement, which most people, they would be trying to fight for assets and trying to divide assets and really not consider the long-term impact on the children. So the way you've handled it, I cannot think of anything more great and anything that I've seen more, because again, it's a lot of self-sacrifice. So you had to sacrifice a lot of yourself in order to give your children this amazing future. So I'm so glad to have seen and witnessed that, because it goes to show that you're a really strong guy and you've done really amazing with that. Just thought I would mention that.
No, thank you so much. Going through a separation agreement is not a fun process. It takes a lot of courage to I guess make that decision. It's easy to stay in a toxic relationship. That's easy. It is not easy to leave a toxic relationship, whether there's been infidelity or not. And I just decided I knew it didn't deserve that. I knew my girls would want to see a happy dad and a happy mom, and that was not going to happen in this household, given what's happened. So the separation agreement that I drafted up with my lawyer was nothing short of fair for her, and that's how I wanted to set the stage. That was basically my way of saying, okay, look, this is a really shitty situation, but let's make the best of a shitty situation, not for my ego or your ego. Let's do it for the girls, so their lives aren't uprooted. And that's been tough. There's, I have moments where I want my ex to feel the pain that I felt. I have moments where I want her to pay, of course. And, but you also have to realize, like, those moments are fleeting. And if you do something, if you hit the nuclear button, if you burn their lives to the ground, call it scorched earth, if you will, that doesn't help the kids. It doesn't really help you in the long run, right? So I think there's a right way of going about this and a wrong way. And, through, thankfully, the advice of Kuri and my lawyer and my family, I've been able to go about this what I think is the right way. And
Definitely the right way. Definitely the right way.
thank you so much. Yeah. And it's not that it hasn't been difficult. It's been very difficult to go about this the right way, because there's, again, you got someone on the left side of your shoulder, someone on the right side of your shoulder telling you to do one thing. Sometimes you want so bad to go scorched earth, but it's not what's right for your family or for your future. Think of it that way. I love my girls more than words can say, and they're what's most important to me. And I can put my ego aside and make sure that we separate the right way for the girls, and that's what I'm focused on doing, is separating the right way for the girls, keeping the girls in the house as long as possible. And my wife and I will swap out, and it's something called nesting, and what we think is a good way to keep them happy and as stable as possible for the next year or so, until we
And
figure out when the right time would be to move them.
it's interesting you say that, because I remember when I asked you the question, and I said, if it means that financially you're tied in for 2 years, if it means that you're going to have to pay for the house a little bit longer,
Yeah.
in terms of resources, you're still having to spread your resources to look after somebody who's hurt you, but at the same time look after your kids. If you looked at your kids 10 years from now or 20 years from now, and they're successful relationships, and they're stable,
Yeah.
would you pay the price? If you know that that's the price that you needed to pay, would you pay that? And you said yes, definitely. And this is where most people miss the bigger picture when it comes to separation, that they go scorched earth, but don't realize that the long-term impact. So like immediately you might not see a real effect on what's going to happen. It's what happens 20 years down the line. And I see this in my own life. My parents separated, but I see the negative things that have happened from me not having my dad, or the rejection that I got from my dad when they separated. So the times that he wouldn't want to see me, and you clearly say on the phone, I don't want to see my kids, don't want to see you. And it is such a negative impact. But that was just him trying to cause pain to my mom without ever considering it. And people do that because they feel so much pain. You cheated on me. You've done all these things. I now want to pay back tenfold, and just completely forget that these people that suffer from it. So the way you've handled it is nothing short of amazing. And you told me the incredible story about your opposition lawyer as well, actually complimenting on how things are going. Can you tell us about that, actually?
Yeah. So I saw my ex's lawyer this past weekend. She's a family friend, and we had my youngest daughter's birthday party this weekend. So she was around, but she pulled me aside. She's like, "Listen, I've been doing this for 15 years. I have never seen anyone handle a situation like this like you have, and it's really kudos to you. It's a great job on how you've handled things." She's seen so many divorces go so sideways, and the parents can barely even sit in the same room together, let alone talk to one another. And that's not what I wanted for my kids. I want my kids to see, a functioning semi-friendship between me and my ex. We've agreed to basically have Sunday family dinners with the girls, so the girls have us both. There's some nights where we're both at the house. But it's either my time with the girls or her time with the girls. But these are things for the girls. This is the girls seeing us working together to co-parent, and that's what's most important to myself and my ex, is that we can co-parent effectively and compassionately for the girls. Really, it's not easy, guys. And I know some of you guys are thinking like, there's no way I can do this, but you really can. And you keep your mouth shut, not because it's not because you don't want to hurt your ex. I know you want to hurt your ex because of what's happened, given some of your situations, but you keep your mouth shut for your kids. You keep it shut for your kids, because ultimately, if you say something that's going to hurt your ex, there's going to be backlash, and then it turns into a fight, and that's not what your kids should see. So do it for your kids, right? That's the message. So, so I'll share a couple more things. I did have a hard time with betrayal and betrayal trauma. I spent, many many nights after discovering the affair, waking up in the middle of the night and thinking about her with another man, and that's normal. That's going to happen. You get through it. It passes. Thankfully, I had Kuri to talk to. He was kind of like a guiding light to this whole process. It is not an easy thing to go through. It's also not easy to go through a marriage where you're constantly being rejected. And that's what I was experiencing, before I even found out there was infidelity, but just going through a marriage where you're just constantly feeling rejected. You're not good enough. There's no attraction there. You don't feel there's attraction there. You just don't know why you can't connect with your wife. It is very difficult, but I got to tell you, I really believe in the work that Kuri's doing. Without him, I wouldn't be in the place where I'm at. When I mentally closed the door on my ex and opened up, my mind to new possibilities, I actually met someone, and it was totally unexpected. And, I got to tell you guys, this girl is absolutely amazing. She understands me. She knows exactly where I'm at in my separation process. So I'm fully transparent with her. And she means the world to me. Like, I really like her so much, and we have so much fun together. But if I didn't go through this process the way I did, and if I didn't basically mentally close the door, I wouldn't have met this person. So, my message to you guys is that if you go through, infidelity and you're down the road of separation, don't, don't fret. There's a bright light at the end of the tunnel. There's better things out there for you. There's someone out there for you that will treat you better than what you've been experiencing. And that's, hopefully that gives you guys some hope in some way. But this person is just so amazing to me. She's beautiful inside and out. Her beauty is not just skin deep like my ex, and that's so meaningful to me. Being with someone that has true empathy and she knows how to love me. That's what you deserve. You should feel that.
I'm curious. I'm actually curious, and it's my shameless plug. So, how much of it now, because you've been a member of the Reignited Men, how much of that is influencing this new friendship? So we can call it.
I think one of the things that you taught me early on is just to be playful, and I lost sight of that. And I know that's one thing, right? But it just being playful with each other is so important. And my ex and I we hadn't been playful in years. Like, I was so upset and resentful for being rejected, and she was so upset and resentful because I wouldn't want to talk to her because I just constantly got rejected by her and got shut down. So it was just a lot of back and forth, a lot of resentment building up over time, death by 1,000 cuts, if you will. And we lost sight of basically, we used to have fun. We used to joke. We used to be playful, and just that all went out the window. It's just, and I don't think there's no hope for that now. I think she's just a different person now, unfortunately. There's something else that we're dealing with there. And, Kuri taught me to be playful, and that's something that I've made a focus in my new relationship, and we're both playful, and we have a great time, and we joke and we laugh, and I haven't laughed this hard, in years with somebody, and it's amazing. I also haven't felt this close to someone in years, and that's what's amazing too. It's really, really rewarding. So Kuri, thank you for all the advice. Thank you for the help. Thanks for being a guiding light through some of the toughest times I've ever had to go through. It really has been. And, what you've given me, and I think just being so generous with your time with me, it's really made a world of difference for me. And I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I didn't have you. So thank you.
No, and I thank you very much for the kind words. And like I've always said, you did the work, because it's all well and good for us to have the time where we're just talking, and we could just talk and then part ways. But that within Reignited Men, I'll always give you some homework and say, I need you to do this set of things that you need. And you were executing. And that's the main thing for me. Because if you don't execute, you don't get the result. And then it kind of looks like another fail. And I think you've always been quick to execute. And that was a mark of somebody who's going to do great things. And you've been doing great things, not just in terms of relationship, but especially with the kids. I can see that you the way you talk about them, the way you conduct yourself, you're doing much better, and you're doing it in a way that's not even um, forced. It's something that is just naturally now coming out of you, which is
That's right.
what I prefer, rather than you having to pretend to be something that you're not. So, which is absolutely amazing.
No, thank you so much for that. Yeah, it's definitely been an adventure. But I've learned a lot about people. I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about, how I want to conduct myself in my next relationship, the relationship I'm in right now. It's been very difficult, but very rewarding at the same time. So thank you for all that. The other thing that you asked me to do just shortly after I discovered the affair is to do something that was extremely uncomfortable for me. And,
Oh,
it's basically to find a new skill. And I got to tell you guys, I have had this just fear my entire life of dancing. Like, I didn't go to my high school prom. I never went to a school dance because I had the fear of dancing. I just didn't want to be in front of people. And, I'm a very tall individual and very well built. And, I get a lot of attention sometimes when I walk in a room. And that's not what I want. I don't want to be the center of attention. So I've never wanted to be in front of a crowd dancing. And I signed up for dance lessons, at Curry's advice. And it was, it's
it took us a
probably
couple of
been,
weeks. I kept pushing. I was like, David, you're
yeah.
gonna do it.
But I got to tell you, it's been
Yeah.
so rewarding. It's been more fun than I ever expected. I have a dance teacher that teaches me, different dance moves, and it's not something I ever would have chosen to do. But it's a new skill that I'm learning. I don't know how long I'll stay with it, but I'm really enjoying it right now, and I have a lot more confidence. If we ever have to dance, at a wedding or another event, I have a lot more confidence, and I'll be able to do it now. So thanks again for that. That's another big one for me.
No,
Um,
that's really good.
and my new girlfriend, because I told her, I shared this with her. I'm like, this is just the most uncomfortable thing I've ever done in my life. She went and signed up for dance lessons too. So so now she's learning, and now we can dance together. It's
That's amazing.
actually
That's incredible.
incredible. Yeah. Yeah. But she wanted to experience it with me, which really means the world to me. So she signed up for dance lessons at a different school, and now we practice together.
And again, it's one of another place of connection, a place where you can be sexual. So it's a non-sexual contact, but at least you can be sexual with it and maintain that frequency within your relationship sexually, because you're having to enjoy each other, making contact, making eye contact, enjoying music as well, and then having to feel the beat of the music. So there's a whole lot of things that are really good. And again, which is a good coaching lesson here, was that most people, when they're trying to change a sexless relationship, they're so focused on the actual sex itself instead of having to just introduce something else that is on the periphery. So dancing would be one thing that would be very, very good to introduce to the relationship and say, you know what, let's go dancing. Let's go for dance lessons together, and sharing that sort of environment where there's music and you're learning a lesson. You got this shared experience of sucking and then getting good together. It builds confidence within yourselves, and then all of a sudden you're actually connecting better because she's comfortable with your touch. She's comfortable with you leading. This is comfortable. There's so many things that you get from it, and you can then transfer that into the bedroom, which then becomes something very, very valuable.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. No, it's been something that I never thought I would choose, but it's been extremely rewarding. So it's another thing I thank you for making me choose something that was outside of my comfort zone, so far outside of my comfort zone. But it's been extremely rewarding, and it does develop confidence. So it's advice that I would recommend to anyone at this point now that
And,
goes through something similar.
and you did it, man. You did it. You put up some resistance, but you did it. And the fact that it's something that I didn't even know you feared as a child, is something like a personal fear. So I'm so grateful for you, and I'm so grateful for the time that you've given us with the podcast, and I'll be forever grateful for you. When I asked for people to come, I didn't even know if anybody was interested. I could see people listening, but I didn't know if people were going to be interested in actually getting for me, giving me the opportunity to coach them. And
Yeah.
there's nothing. I've got nothing but good words to say about you. The way you're implementing things, especially the dancing as well, the way you've implemented and the way you've allowed some of the information that we've shared to really transform your life. Again, a lot of the work, you did it, and it's all credit to you. So thank you very much for that. And I'm so grateful for you for joining us. So is there any last words that you want to say to the listeners? And hopefully we can wrap things up.
I echo everything you just said. I know I wouldn't be in the place I'm in right now, mentally and emotionally, without you being so generous with your time and giving me guidance, and me listening and doing the work, certainly. But I wouldn't be where I'm at right now without your help. So it means the world to me. And I hope my story and all your podcasts, your content, helps other men out there that are struggling with the same or something similar. I would love to help people that go through a similar situation as what I went through, to give them some guidance on the right way and the wrong way to do things. Because ultimately, if it goes sideways, you're just spending money and giving it to lawyers versus, retaining those finances in your estate and for your children. There's definitely a way to go about that to minimize how much you give to lawyers and maximize how much you retain and keep for your children, and also keeping yourself sane and your children happy. So hopefully this podcast was helpful to some of you out there. Hopefully I can join another one in the future and
Oh, definitely.
my
Actually,
my post-divorce story.
Yeah, I do have. So I've got two more episodes I want to do with you, if that's okay. I want to do one that's dedicated to the separation process, in terms of finding the lawyer, what that looked like. So for some people that are actually going through it, I would like for them to know what to look for, the best advice. I know it in the States it's a little bit different, so it might differ between state to state, but there might be some things that are they can correlate from, and then also in terms of the children. So that's something that is going to be important. And then I think we'll dedicate another episode on your new relationship, what that looks like, in terms of like setting boundaries, in terms of frequency of sex and so on. What are you doing in order to do that? So I think that's something that we're going to look to do. And I'm so forever grateful again for you and for joining us in Reignited Men, and it's been absolutely amazing. So, thank you very much. If you want to get in touch with this gentleman over here, I'm still trying to keep his name anonymous. Go to Thriving_Tribesmen in Instagram, and hopefully when you can get in touch with me, I'll put you in touch with him if you need some help and just to figure out how to move things forward, or even if you just need some support, and you can have he said to me that he's willing to support you guys, any of you guys that are going through this. So if you want us to speak to somebody who's gone through it. So again, it's Thriving_Tribesmen on Instagram. You can get in touch with me and I'll put you in touch with him. And then that way I'm leaving out his name so we can keep you anonymous. So thank you very much. I'll be seeing you guys soon. Take care.
Thanks, Kuri. Bye-bye.